Neil deGrasse Tyson shares his thoughts on God. What's up, guys? Definition of man. Hey, I thought this was a very interesting conversation. Neil deGrasse Tyson, somebody that I've watched a lot of his interviews and a lot of his talks over the years. Very, very sharp guy, scientist, astrophysicist. Has had a number of different TV shows on the Science Channel, I believe, and some other networks. I could be wrong on that. Y'all fact check me, but very sharp, successful guy. And I love just listening to him. I've always been into science and engineering. That's really kind of my background is tech. So just hearing him talk and his brain, I always just found him to be an interesting person. So in this interview on Vlad TV, he's asked about God, and they have a very interesting conversation. And I want to just watch this video, gonna share a few thoughts on it. I think there's some of you all out there that might be listening or watching. I'm curious, you all might have different thoughts about God. And is God real? What is God? What does that even mean? Like, to have a God, or is there God? Is God a real thing? Whatever your thoughts may be. Let's watch this video, and I'm gonna share a few thoughts, and we'll go from there.
In 2014, you did an interview, and they asked you, what do you think about God? And you said, I remain unconvinced by any claims anyone has ever made about the existence or the power of a divine force operating in the universe. Right?
Yeah, I would have said something like that for sure.
Right. And, since then...
By the way, just to be clear,
yeah.
What's probably missing from your extracted quote is the setup for that, which would be, is there a particular God you have in mind that you want me to comment on?
Huh. Okay. I missed that.
Because if you go online and in a Google search, you type God's worshipped by humans. There's a tally of all the gods ever worshipped by humans in the history of civilization. And it just goes screen after screen after screen after screen. So when you say, do you believe in God? Which God? Is it Zeus? Is it Poseidon? Is it the Jewish God? Is it the Christian God? Right. So you look at all of this and you say, is that the God you want me to comment on? Or is there some other God? Typically, it's the Judeo-Christian blend there. In that context, I would say in my studies of the universe, I value evidence, and I don't see evidence for any kind of active intelligence or power over anything.
Interesting video. Man, so many thoughts. So I think that when we start to talk about religion and we start to talk about God and have these sorts of conversations, it's like politics and religion, right? The two things that nobody really wants to talk about. Or some people, that's all they want to talk about, and some go off the deep end with it. And I grew up Christian. That's been my background. But I went through a period, mostly in college and after college, of what I would call deconstruction, which is where you start to question a lot of the things that you were taught growing up. You start to question everything, right? It's like, okay, I grew up going to this church every Sunday and going to Bible studies and singing in the choir and doing all of these different things. Why am I doing all of this, right? You start to question a lot of things. You start to ask yourself a lot of questions because, in particular, I will say as men, but not just men, I mean people, right? Like as we get older, especially get to that college age, your 20s and everything like that, 18 getting into college and then maturing into your 20s, you're asking a lot of questions. You're around people from different environments, people with different worldviews, people that think different ways, and you're questioning everything. And so that's what I did. I will tell you that what happened with me and what happens with a lot of other people is I hit rock bottom. In a lot of different situations. And I'll probably get into some of the details of that in some other videos a little bit later, but I'll just say everything from relationship drama to just a little bit of like some self-esteem and some confidence issues I was dealing with at the time. Some of those things stemming from my childhood, and so dealing with that as an adult. And you get to a point where it's like no amount of money, no amount of partying, no amount of escapism or any of those things can heal those hurts and those things that you have. And so in those moments, where do you turn? I will say that in those moments, I had a faith that was within me from when I was a kid because my parents placed that in me, right? So through that entire period of deconstruction, I had that to fall back on, and I began to lean more into that. And so my belief system now as a 44-year-old man and where I lean is I believe that there is a God, and I believe that God sent his son to die for each and every one of us for all of our mistakes. Now, when we talk about the existence of God, right, there's a few things with this. So, one, think about this world. Think about this universe. Think about the planets. Think about the way that everything is aligned. Think about the way that babies are born and the birth and how that happens within 9 months and the perfection that goes into that. And think about the process of just life coming into the world through a woman. Think about the process of planets that orbit around each other perfectly without falling out of the sky. Think about stars, think about galaxies, the universe, all of these different things that are in order. Now, does it make sense that all of that would just happen? Right? Like, does it make sense that all of that could magically just happen through a bang, through a whatever, right? Like, does it make sense that all of that could have been orchestrated without something higher to orchestrate it? Does that make sense? And the more that I thought through it in that way, and all of the reading and all of the researching and books that I've read and all kind of different things, and I really started to ask myself that question, none of it made sense. Nothing made sense other than there being something that created that spark and put all of those things into place and into perfect order. That's where I landed. So step one, is there a God? I landed on yes with that. The Bible says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So right there, it's like, well, do you believe that or not? Right? I landed on, well, I believe that. There's no possible way all these things can be in perfect order. So that's how I landed on that. So that was step one for me. Step two, Jesus. Is Jesus real? This story of Jesus, right? God's son and him being crucified and dying for everyone's sins. And, this and all of these things I was told growing up, right? And then I began to hear stories about how it was a myth. So I had a lot of different conflicting messages and a lot of things I was thinking through that were going through my head. But in the end, I started to ask the real question, which was, well, is Jesus real? Is Jesus who he says he is? So then I got very passionate about that, and I started to do research into that. So then I realized, well, it's not just that the Bible talks about the story of Jesus. There's actually documented witnesses that witnessed his death and resurrection, right? And then for the fact that after that time period happened, all of human history changed. The way that we tell time, BC, AD, the fact that you started to see Christian churches pop up everywhere, all throughout the world. You started to see all of these things happening, right? Something had to have happened. Like, the people that witnessed this resurrection, something had to be real, right? Like, it doesn't logically make sense that this religion and all of this would have spread the way that it did if nothing had happened. And so the last thing that I wanted to understand was, okay, so as Christians, we're supposed to believe in God and we're supposed to pray and do all of these things, but what does that really mean for me? Like, practically, just day to day, like as a man, what does it mean for me to trust God, to follow God? What does that even look like? And is that practical in today's day and age? I'm reading this Bible, but does it really apply to me? Is it really anything I can lean on? Like, that was what I wanted to understand. And so I started to lean more into that. And again, I started going through some very difficult times. I started going through some times where I didn't have anybody to call. I didn't have anything to lean on. I was leaning on all the wrong things, and none of it was working. None of it was working. A lot of times as men, we might try to lean on women. You know, we'll go to the club, we'll try to meet somebody new, we'll go out, we'll try to hook up with who we hook up with. We're trying to fill this hole that way. We might turn to drinking, we might turn to smoking, whatever. We might turn to other things, but none of it's going to fill the hole. And when I hit rock bottom, I got to a space where all I had to lean on was God. All I had to lean on was prayer. And I'm going to tell you something. God started to reveal himself to me. It would always happen in the car for some reason. Like, I started to hear from God for the first time in the car. And it's a few times it happened in church service too. Like, I was sitting there and I would hear this like still small voice that was answering a lot of the different prayers that I had at the time. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so, look, I'm just saying, man, like, you're listening to this or watching this, and I don't know your belief system. I don't know what you believe to be true or not to be true. But I will tell you that from personal experience, what I do know is that Jesus is the only one that says, you do not have to be perfect to come to me. His death and the price that he paid covers everything that you have ever done and could ever do. And I hadn't heard another message like that. I have studied other religions. Through my deconstruction period, I really wanted to understand what other religions believed. And the thing about Christianity is you cannot earn your way into salvation. You cannot earn your way into God's grace. Like, we're all sinners. We've all done wrong. So we can't earn our way into that. But Jesus already paid for that. And so once I started to understand that, and once we understand that as men, there's just so much freedom in that, man. There is so much freedom because you don't have to walk around trying to be perfect. You don't have to walk around thinking you can't make a mistake. If you do make a mistake, you don't have to feel like it's the end of the world and you're a terrible person and there's no coming back for you, because none of that's true, right? So, you know, I respect Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love his mind. I love the way that he speaks and what he talks about. I just wish that I could have a conversation with him. I do. If you're watching this or if you're listening to this, like, I want you to leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts on God are. Do you believe God is real? Do you not believe God is real? What are your thoughts? I really want to hear from some of y'all. So, hope y'all enjoyed the video. See y'all on the next one.